Hello everyone, a very good morning to all our viewers joining us from India, and a good afternoon and good evening to anybody joining us from anywhere else in the world. It's a beautiful day here, and we are happy to present the third episode of Expert EduPath, the journey of success. It's a conversation with achievers brought to you by Expert Group of Institutions Alumni Association. Today, I want to talk about something that we've all probably thought of at some point in our life. We all learn mathematics in school, but it's difficult to exactly define what mathematics is. Clearly, numbers, shapes, equations form a part of it, but mathematics is much more than that. It's a vast field that is full of concepts and ideas. The best way to understand what mathematics is to do mathematics. The second best way is to learn from someone who does mathematics, and that is what we are here to do today. And today we have with us a guest who will exactly help us understand this. We have Professor Asha Rao joining us all the way from Melbourne. Uh, Hello, good afternoon to you, Professor Rao, and welcome to this show, EduPath.
Thank you, Ankush. I'm very pleased to be here. Anywhere where I can talk about mathematics, I love it, and I'm hoping more people will as well.
Yes, we're extremely happy to have you with us today. I will just give a short introduction to our viewers uh, so that they understand who you are. And after that, I will ask you a few questions. So, Professor Asha Rao is the Associate Dean of Mathematical Sciences at RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, and a 2019-2020 Australian Superstar of STEM, and also the interim director of Australian Mathematical Sciences Institute. She completed her bachelor's degree at St. Agnes College under Mangalore University, her master's degree in mathematics at the University of Bombay, and her PhD in algebra from the University of Pune. A transdisciplinary researcher, Professor Rao applies algebraic techniques to a wide variety of problems, ranging from designing better codes for communication to detecting money laundering and describing human interactions in the physical space, from measuring the effectiveness of campaigning on social media to designing better security for the Internet of Things. Her research work has resulted in highly ranked publications and over 3 million Australian dollars in funding over the past 10 years. Her research in fraud and money laundering has resulted in invitations to closed and open meetings on cybersecurity, as well as to observe the United Nations intergovernmental meetings on cybercrime in Vienna. Professor Asha Rao has been involved with cybersecurity education in RMIT since 2001. A cybersecurity expert, she regularly appears on audio, visual, and print media and has won RMIT Media Star Awards. As a superstar of STEM, she is passionate about mathematics and gender issues that stymie the progress of women and girls in STEM careers. As the founding chair of Women in Maths, she put in place several initiatives to improve gender equity within the mathematical sciences in Australia. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, Madam, and it is really our privilege to have such a wonderful guest with us today. Uh, so, before we start, I would like to first remind our viewers that you can send in your questions live for the guest to answer. You can text your questions by WhatsApp. WhatsApp will work wherever you are in the world, and the number is 82964 90168. That is 82964 90168, and this is being displayed on your screen right now. Okay, and before we start this session, I would like to remind all of you, do subscribe to our channel on YouTube and click on the notification bell just under this video so that you will receive regular updates on the sessions that we do every week. Uh, Coming back to you, Professor Asha Rao. I want to ask you, the first thing that comes to mind when we think about mathematics is that as children, we are, for some reason or the other, we are scared of maths. We go to school and we think, oh, it's so difficult. Why is this fear of mathematics so prevalent? And what can math teachers and mathematicians do to fix it?
Okay, so there is research which shows that if a teacher in primary school is what we call an out of field teacher, which means has not done mathematics themselves, then this creates an anxiety, a maths anxiety, which is then spread to the students. And often the problem is not so much that the teacher is not able to teach, but that the teacher is afraid of making mistakes. And in any other field, that would not be so much of a problem. But in mathematics, which deals so much with answers and specific answers, the teacher's anxiety about making a mistake then flows on to the students. And the good teachers are the teachers who don't spread that anxiety, are the ones who are not afraid of making mistakes. And that's what I always say. It is mathematics by its nature is you're allowed to make mistakes. I don't know, seems to be this idea that mathematics, you can't make mistakes. This is the answer. You can only get the right answer. But whether it is the teacher or the student, that is wrong. It doesn't matter. I make so many mistakes. I tell my students, I make mistakes. It's up to you to catch me.
So I think in mathematics you're allowed to do mistakes because when it comes to physical sciences, what happens is if you're doing an experiment and you make a mistake, it's okay, but it can be very expensive to make a mistake sometimes because you end up with a lot of wasted physical resources, could be consumables, equipment. But in mathematics, because it's a lot of concepts and ideas, and I think it's the advantage is you're allowed to make mistakes. But I think the students are afraid, and as you said, if a teacher is afraid to make mistakes, then the students will learn that as well.
That's right. So, mathematics sort of builds on itself. So it's so important that you make those mistakes. You learn why you have made those mistakes, and then you learn how to overcome those mistakes. And indeed, so I'll tell you a little story. When I was, I think, in the second year of my degree, we were looking at chemistry, and I had to look at something to do with chloroform. And there was the specific weight and there was a specific number for that. And I kept repeating the experiment because I didn't get the exact number that mathematics told me I should get. And the teacher said, well, in theory, that works. In practice, it doesn't. You get a ballpark
Talking
figure.
of memories, what's your earliest memory of being excited by mathematics? And what made you choose this career in math? How did that lead to a career?
Okay, so my earliest memory, I can't actually remember. I know that I was good at maths because my mother said to me when I was I had to do an entrance exam for first standard, okay, grade 1, and my mother tells me that I got 2 out of 100 for spelling and 98 out of 100 for mathematics. I don't know what mathematics we did at that time, but as you can say, it was just something I did. I loved doing it. I don't know if I was, when you think of, sometimes when you think about it and you think it was easy or it was exciting, I just loved doing it. So I would just keep doing the problems over and over. It never worried me. Now, on the other hand, I know that I have my spelling has always been weak. So I've always lived with a dictionary. I've always cross-checked. Sometimes words don't look right to me and I go and cross-check that the words are right. So you can see this both sides.
Right. I think we do the opposite. We live with a calculator because we're not good at math like you are. Yeah. Many students have this perception that mathematics is full of theory and assumptions and with very little practical application. But what is the relevance of mathematics in the real world? Other than, obviously, in physics, we have these connections, mathematics that we do make. We use mathematical tools there. But in your usual day-to-day life, where has mathematics made an impact?
Oh, everything. That smartphone that you take. that one, it wouldn't work. Computers wouldn't work if there wasn't Boolean algebra, which is the base on which computers sit. The internet and the security of the internet, the way we use the internet on and cryptography, medications that you will have an elderly relative in your house who's taking medication. So working on how much medication is required, that wouldn't work if there wasn't mathematics. And I say to people who say, "Oh, I don't need any of those in my daily life." Well, if you have to work out what discount you're getting at a store, well, that's mathematics.
Yes, I'm sure more people
Which
would be.
bus you have to take, which route you are going to go, that's all mathematics.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be.
Right. And
it doesn't seem.
Yeah, and as you said, many people tend to ignore the role of mathematics. But it's one thing if a common person ignores the role of mathematics in their life. But when students start to ignore mathematics, I'm sure that has quite a major impact on their academics when they start ignoring. But students, especially looking to pursue a career in medicine, they tend to generally ignore mathematics, saying that, oh, if I study biology and maybe a little bit of chemistry, that should be enough for me. And they tend to ignore mathematics, physics to some extent, but mathematics to a large extent. So is mathematics relevant at all to medicine and healthcare, and should students be ignoring it?
Absolutely, they should not be ignoring it. It is absolutely essential for a number of things, because when you're in year 11 or 12, when you're 15 to 17, and you think, I want to do a career in medicine, you really don't know what you want to do. So when I talk to students and they say to it, it's not a requirement, it's not a prerequisite, I usually tell them, why are you trying to just cross the lowest barrier? Why not try a barrier which is higher? So the important thing about mathematics is not only that it's mathematics, but it's a different way of thinking. It's a different language. And learning that language, it's a logical way of thinking that allows you to then learn a huge number of other things in a logical way. So mathematics, you should look at it not just as, okay, I'm learning specific tools, but you should look at it as I am learning a new language, a language that will allow me to use other languages.
Right, and interestingly, a viewer has sent a message to us with something that relates to this. So the viewer asks, what is the correct mindset to correlate mathematics with real life issues? Is mathematics not just learning formulae? And generally that's where students get demotivated, that they need to memorize a lot of theorems and formulae. Yeah. So is there a trick to think of mathematics in natural terms?
It is. But it's often, see, the important thing is when you think, is it all formulae? It isn't. You have to understand what the formula is. What is it doing? Why is it doing what it is doing? Don't look at the formula, and I went through much of my schooling where I didn't pay attention to formulae. I would do many things from what they call first principles. I would go back to what it was. So I changed about 5 schools in my 10 years of education, and I seem to have missed the class in every single one where they learned the times tables. So I never learned the times tables. But you can ask me anything and I can tell you what it is. It's just because I kept doing it. I didn't bother that I didn't know. So if you ask me something, I didn't worry about the fact that as I say, I missed that. So I was quite comfortable with just saying the entire tables every time I needed it. So by the time I finished this thing, I was proficient. So it's, we focus on the wrong things. We focus on the formula, not on understanding. Right. So sometimes I say, let me give you a little example. How is this mug made? And we think of, and you'll be doing year 11, 12, they may be looking at integration. So integration is how a mug is made. So you look at how do you make the base, and then you look at how do you build it. So triple integrals, as we call it. That's how a mug is made. Nobody talks to you about it. But if you want to go out and make a different size of mug, you need to know integration.
Right.
And how do you tell the machine what you need?
Correct.
That's what mathematics is. this. Not to think about, okay, I have to do that. No, it's what is it doing? What is it actually doing? That is the fascinating thing about maths.
Right. No, it's very interesting to understand that mathematics provides us not only these formulae, but actually the tools to do something useful out of it. And I think forms the foundation for every field of not just science, but also coming into economics or commerce and finance, and definitely it forms a major part of that. But talking about misconceptions or myths related to math. Uh, we see a lot of trend of children getting into mental calculation. Of course, with the recent movie that was released, mental calculation has become quite a hype. And does being good at mental calculation necessarily translate into being better at mathematics? And because we see this trend where parents send their children, especially in India and a lot of South Asian countries, I'm sure, where children send their parents send their children to classes at a very, very young age, when they are just 6 or 7 years old, to learn techniques and tricks for fast calculation.
Yeah.
These are abacus classes or Vedic mathematics, etc. Now, are these skills of mental calculation actually, do they translate into being a better mathematician? And what are the real skills that one needs to develop to be successful in maths?
Okay, so no, I don't believe the tricks and tips are important. They have their place, but they are not an indicator of success. It's not what we call in English or in mathematics an if and only if. You can be good at this and then you will be. No, it's not. That's not the case. What you need to understand is why you're doing it, and most importantly, persevere with doing it. It teaches you resilience, it teaches you how. So I know that when I was in school, we didn't have a lot of books. So I would just keep doing the problems in the textbook over and over, just because I wanted to get it faster. I wanted to do it better. I wanted to make less mistakes. So it's not like I didn't make mistakes. I just kept doing it. So, thinking sometimes I wonder if I come across as somebody who's really good at maths. No, I have to tell people, I just do it and do it and do it. You cannot become a famous cricketer. If you think of Sachin Tendulkar, he practices. I don't know how many hours a day he would practice. So why not? I mean, you don't even need that much with mathematics. As I tell people, the first time you do it, it's hard. The second time, it's easier. It just gets easier. And then you start loving how you do it, and it gives you that high. So just going back to the former question that you had about real life, if you go into the garden, and you will notice that all flowers have an odd number of petals. They have 3 or 5 or 7 or 11. But if you go and look at the printing that is done on clothes, especially in India, and I don't have a talk which does that, you will notice that they always do an even number, which is not nature. Nature is odd. Mathematics of nature. You look at the leaves often come in a whirl. The mathematics of nature, it's there. So to recognize little simple facts, to recognize, for example, you don't need to do mental calculations, but, to be able to recognize tricks that, if you have a 7, then you look for it. If you're adding numbers, you have a 7, you're looking for it, because that'll give you a 10. If you've got a 70, you're looking for a 30. That'll give you 100. So things like that. And I remember when I was teaching my own son, and I would, he would say, tell me the tricks. And I was like, these are the tricks that you have to recognize yourself. Those are the tricks that will stay, not the tricks we teach you, because then it just becomes rote learning. And I know I have never been able to do that. Never, ever. I don't think I have tried a couple of times, given up almost immediately.
And we also received a question from another viewer who asks how to make 6 to 10-year-old children interested in math and how to motivate them.
Show them, as I said, with nature, go show them. Talk maths all the time. Get them to count. Get them to see the difference. Look at the colors and look at the difference. Think of, and everything is, mathematics is in everything. When you have the rainbow, there are the 7 colors in there. So, get them to recognize it around them. Then think about, and I did that with nephew of my grandson of my cousin last year. I just was talking to him and I was trying to show him, to the power of. So 10 squared, and then we did 2 squared and 4 squared, and then we looked at, okay, so if you have 2 squared and 4 squared and 3 squared, then what about cubed? Thinking of the way the numbers jump.
Right.
Things like that, little tricks, just little. And when I say tricks, it's just tricks that you use to hook them in.
Right. So we have a lot of questions coming in from our viewers. I will just try to ask a few of them. We have a lot of students asking very similar questions. So we have Pranav Reddy, Sanjana, and many others who have asked a question that I find math very difficult compared to other subjects. So how can we develop interest and love towards this subject? Now, it's probably going from how a child develops at a very young age towards maybe somebody who's already in high school or getting into university. So how can such a student develop interest and love towards the subject?
Okay, so again, it's just what I would say, and I say this to my students on a regular basis, spend the time. So the first week it may take you to something in class, can't do it on your own. The thing about mathematics, as opposed to any other subject, the high you get when you get something right, you'd never get it anywhere else. Which is why I don't drink alcohol, I don't drink drugs, I'm not interested in sweets, because I get all my highs from mathematics. And that is the amazing thing, to just do it. So the first, and Nikes, this is what I used to say in class. It said, follow the Nike principle, just do it. And the first week, it'll take you 10 hours. The next week, it'll take you 8. But within 5 weeks, you will understand how it works. Not rote learning. Look at what the problem is. Try and do the problem on your own. See what the steps are. Steps are very, very important to be able to break. And that's the only thing. Perseverance. All of life is the same.
Right. Some other viewers are asking us that during our academics, we study a lot of math. But when it comes to a profession, we do not really use, a majority of people do not probably use all the math that they study. So why study so much math at all?
Because you never know when you will use it. As I said, it's a type of a language. It's teaching you a way of thinking. So don't think of everything as, will I use this formula that I'm learning? Say, for example, I don't know if they will recognize this, the Taylor's polynomial. Why will you learn? But I know that, when I do research, sometimes, or rather I remember a couple of years where all we did for the entire year was look at how the Taylor's polynomial was affecting what we were doing. And this was to do with communications theory, to do with better coding. It was first year, undergraduate mathematics, first year.
Right.
And you're like, okay, so this is how. So the thing is, maths has a foundation. It builds one on top. It's like a brick wall. You can't build the upper bricks without the lower bricks. So yes, there is sometimes you will wonder why you're doing it, but often by the time you work out when you need it, it's often too hard, too late to work out what that brick actually was.
And I think it's not just about learning those theorems or formulae, but it's also about developing skills, because I think mathematics teaches reasoning and problem-solving skills, which may be relevant in any field that we take up, right? So could you tell us something about the research that you do? What do you work on?
Okay, so at this point we're doing, I have 2 PhD students. One is working on the Internet of Things. And, they say that by 2025, there will be 50 billion devices online, something like that. So just think of how many devices you have. You probably have a smartphone, you have the computer on which we are talking, but it could also be you have a smartwatch. That's right. I don't. I remember my students used to laugh at me because for years I didn't have a smartphone. But all of these devices, and these things are coming into all our normal the normal devices we have around the house, like the fridge. The fridge is coming. So the question is, the fridge is going to realize that you're low on milk and is going to order milk. And I was like, why can't I just go and order it? But anyway, that's not my research problem. My research problem is, okay, so if that fridge is going to talk to something online, then it becomes a weak link in our chain. So that is what we are working on. How can we secure devices which are lower in resources against the internet, which is very high in resources? So that is the research that one of my PhD students do. And I'm just saying, this is with mathematics. I'll stop soon. But the thing with mathematics is, so there's another student who's working on how to get small and medium enterprises, especially small enterprises, people who are one or two, who are running a business, how to get them to be secure. And the thing with that we realized is, this is a problem as it is, but with COVID-19, and especially if you look at the places like Australia, which went into hard lockdowns, they lost a lot of money. If they didn't want to do that, they had to go online. So things like Uber, DoorDash, all of that came in. And that needs them to be secure. And the mindset we bring into that is the mathematical, logical mindset.
We usually, because you work a lot on cybersecurity, and especially with the Internet of Things, cybersecurity has become a more household day-to-day issue, because we have all these devices. It could be Alexa or Google Home, and we have this. A lot of people think, what if they're always listening to us, and what if somebody gets access to that data? Because there's a lot of personal data being shared into the cloud, and we never know what. Whether our data is secure and the privacy of the data. Yeah. So, but generally, when we think of cybersecurity, we think of it as being a computer science problem. How does mathematics fit into this?
Oh, because the engine which actually secures, is cryptography, and it comes back to what is called number theory. And as you know, this is very relevant here because we're talking about Australia and India, and number theory was what Ramanujan did.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it talks about the theory of numbers, of how, and it's just about integers, how, and that is what is used to secure. So at that point, Hardy and Littlewood, with whom Ramanujan worked, so number theory is considered to be the purest of the mathematical science research areas. But it's amazing that it is now it powers the engine of the internet security.
Right.
Cybersecurity is
mathematics
number theory.
forms the foundation, and I think computer science is more of like the cosmetic part of it at the end.
It is the one which enables it. It enables it, but without mathematics, computer science, and the computer science itself. Computer science itself sits on Boolean algebra. It sits on mathematics without what we call discrete mathematics, and it's spelled in a different way. And I only realized that when my dad asked me the spelling, why is it spelled differently? So discrete mathematics, which is the mathematics of numbers, as opposed to continuous mathematics, which has fractions and things like that. Yes, so computer science sits on discrete mathematics. Without discrete mathematics, there's no computer science.
So we have a student from RMIT University who has asked a question. So Karthikeya Reddy, who's a student of Bachelor of Analytics at RMIT University, asks, what is the role of mathematics in the data analytics industry, and how important are mathematics and statistics professionals in the industry?
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing that COVID-19 has shown us is how important mathematics is, how important data scientists is. Right now, I think we have, in the last 10 years or something, we have generated more data in the 10 years than since ever. Since the dawn of civilization, or whatever you can call it. Right? Yes, petabytes of data. So to understand the data, whether it is Amazon trying to work out what it should sell to you, or it is the data science, or it is the doctor trying to work out the vaccine, how do we flatten the graph, all of this, flatten the curve, the 14-day average, all of that is mathematics. This is what, and today's companies cannot actually work without understanding the data they're generating. The data that you said is going to the cloud, how do we secure it? They have to make sense of that data. And the only way you can make sense of the data is using mathematics, statistics, analytics. Right. You can't do it. So tell Karthikeya, you're doing good, guys.
Yes.
Just to add, let me just add this, Ankush. Yes. The US Department of Labor sort of graphs the growth of professions, and mathematics is supposed to be the fastest growing profession now. It beats every other profession coming. That is between, 2018 to 2028 is considered to rise faster than any other profession.
Yeah, in fact, my first exposure to data analytics and big data was when I was doing my master's in the University of Arizona, and my roommate was doing his PhD in big data. So that is how I got exposed to this. He was working on healthcare informatics, in fact, talking about how health data can be leveraged to get better insights into public health. And I think it does play a major role. And today we're talking about national education policy in India, the new policy that's come in. And the policy gives a lot of importance to the relevance of data, machine learning, and also it talks about developing not just foundational literacy, but numeracy. So this is a new term that we are hearing, at least here in India. So can you just tell us what it means to develop numeracy at a young age?
Okay, so numeracy, so sometimes I wonder about that. So let me go a little bit back. So one of the things that we tell parents to do is to read to their children. So that increases literacy. We don't encourage them to do mathematics with their children, which increases numeracy. Because as we go forward, there's a few things that are happening. One is they say that nobody is going to have one job for life. Okay, and I look at my own career. I started at RMIT and I'm still at RMIT. But what I did when I started is not what I do now. So even though I have not changed my job, my career has changed. I have done different things. And I'm not talking about the level where I am. I'm just basically talking physically of the things I do. And that is what it means. To be numerate means to be able to understand things like when you retire, how much funds do you need? To see when somebody gives you an offer which you think is too good to be true. To be able to make those decisions, to realize that it is possibly too good to be true.
Right.
To be able to make those, it is so important. Literacy and numeracy, and they say especially for women, because women are often the people at homes who are not looking at, at the financial things. Right. It is so important to understand what is your incomings, what are your outgoings, what are you spending for, how do you secure your future? It's all, literacy will help you read it. Numeracy will help you understand it.
Right. Talking about how it's very, very important for women to have this level of numeracy. You've worked a lot for gender inclusivity and gender equity in STEM fields. So what are the challenges that women face to rise in the STEM fields, and specifically in math?
So in mathematics, the general idea that is sent out, and this is a culture, it's across almost all cultures, it is that women are not as good in mathematics, that boys are better, that girls don't do mathematics. So what I'm trying to do is make, and it's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the US Supreme Court Justice said. Yes, Supreme Court judge. What she said was that if there are more of us, we will be less of a curiosity. And that is what to understand that there are. And so that is what I have done. I've gone out and I talk about it a lot because young children, especially girls, need to see. And how I was talking of math anxiety before? Research shows that the girls are more affected by that anxiety. The maths anxiety of teachers goes towards, discourages girls more than boys. So often students, especially in India, it could be that, girls will think, I may not have a career. I don't need to have a career. You need to understand mathematics just for daily life.
Right.
You can't, to understand how to use your smartphone, how to make sure your smartphone is actually secure, that you don't lose your life savings.
Yeah.
It's
So,
mathematics.
since you were talking about how girls are generally they feel discouraged about learning, a girl called Shailashri has asked a question, and she says, I feel like I'm good in maths, but not actually. When I used to sit to practice problems, I feel frustrated and think that why am I not getting it right? I feel like it's very complicated. Why am I not good in this subject, although I am interested in the subject?
It is. So, as I said, there is some gap somewhere that she needs to persevere and fill. Don't get discouraged that easily. Don't get discouraged. Think of all these, the top piano players. Think of the top cricketers. They practice and practice and practice. Don't let it stop you. The think that you think that, when you think I'm not good at this, you have put a barrier. Just think, I don't know this yet. Change from thinking I can't get this to I don't know this yet.
Right.
I will get it.
Yes.
Simple, and they are mental tricks. These are more important than all the tricks that you will learn
So I think
elsewhere.
it's about having that curiosity to learn and wanting to understand. Now, generally, in
And
every field
persevering.
of STEM, be it physics, chemistry, engineering, students generally study about the work done by men, be it Einstein or Newton in physics. We have in chemistry, we have Avogadro, Dalton, Niels Bohr, Charles Darwin in biology. It could be even in math. You talk about Ramanujan, you talk about Euclid. Uh, Generally, if you ask a student of science, can you name a female scientist or a mathematician, they would, other than Marie Curie, I don't think many people would be able to name a lot of women in science.
Good answer.
What has actually led to this situation, and what role models can girls look up to be successful in STEM?
So there has been a concentrated effort. It's not that they are not there. So if you look at, there are a lot of kids books now which look at females. It's not that they're not there. It's like, have you seen or heard of the movie Hidden Figures? They are there. They've just been shrouded. They have not been exposed. So you talk of Marie Curie. I talk of Emmy Noether, who does Noetherian rings. There is the latest one, the first and only female to win the Fields Medal. So as you know, there is no Nobel Prize in mathematics. The difference is the Fields Medal has to be, you have to be eligible. You have to be under 40.
Oh.
So Mariam Mirzakhani, yes, unlike the Nobel Prize, which is a lifetime achievement, this is before 40. So Mariam Mirzakhani is the first woman to get the Nobel Prize of mathematics, which is the Fields Medal. So that's the thing. There are a huge number. So if you look at the DNA structure, a couple of men got the Nobel Prize. The woman was the one who actually found that, but she had died by the time the Nobel Prize was awarded. She was not. So there are so many stories. So if you go back to and all of these stories, there are a million stories, and those stories are coming out now. There are lots of kids' books, and it's often a self-fulfilling prophecy. I know that there is a project on Wikipedia where they're actually doing Wikipedia pages for women, and often when they asked to do it, they say, "Oh, if she was famous, she would already have a Wikipedia page," which is what we call a catch-22. You cannot have a Wikipedia page because you're not famous enough, and because you're not famous enough, they're not going to let you have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, it's
it was created by men, and yes. It is unfortunately something created by men, and it is yeah. So we are fighting to, we're trying to showcase as many women as we can to make sure that there are role models. And again, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, that there are more of us, we are less of a curiosity. We are there, we are hidden, but we are there.
Right.
Look for us.
I think it is important that teachers and curriculum get updated to actually recognize the contribution of women in fields. It doesn't have to be historical, even recent events would do.
Yes.
And that way students can be made more aware that, you know, they are out
Yep.
there, and that you can also probably be like them.
Absolutely. And for the first time, a Nobel Prize, I think, was in chemistry, which went to a team of 2 women.
Right. So we have a math teacher, Mr. Lawrence Sequeira, asking a question. What are the applications of math in medicine? I think we have covered a little bit of this, but how to create interest in maths in students who are focusing on NEET, specifically to India. NEET is the entrance exam for medicine. And generally students were focusing to study NEET because in NEET, I think why this question is very specific is because students only have to write physics, chemistry, and biology for the competitive exam, but they do need to study math for their boards. So students always have this balance between, do I actually need to focus on math when it is not there for the exam, right? So how do you create interest in maths for such students?
To make them remember that you do better in physics and chemistry if you are better in maths. That's the first point. You get better at physics and chemistry and even biology. And so with medicine in specifics, one I would talk about, especially I find that COVID-19 has given us so many what we call the silver linings. So it's a cloud which has really made us struggle, but it has given us a huge number of silver linings. Looking at how the data is being, so that is a very, very easy one. But in medicine as well, surgeons now often don't do surgery, they use robotics. And behind that is mathematics. Yes, calculus sits behind
right.
those robots which do the surgery.
Changing gears a little bit, there's a slightly more quirkier question that's come in. And talking about mathematical research, mathematics forms the basis for theoretical physics. And Surya, a viewer, asks, do you believe that time travel is possible? And is there anything in mathematics that says that it could be possible?
Okay, so there are a couple of things here. One is basically Einstein's theory of relativity, which basically says that the closer you get to the speed of light, the heavier your mass is going to be. So E is equal to mc far at that speed. So talking of time travel, well, it's actually possible right now. So I can leave Melbourne at 7 a.m. on, say, what is today? Today is the 8th of November, and I can arrive in Los Angeles at 6 a.m. on the 8th of November.
Right.
That's time travel, right?
Yes, that's a trick though.
Yeah. For a trick question, you have a trick answer.
Yes. Yeah. No, I actually think time traveling to the future is, it happens all the time. If you just go to space and come back, you have actually skipped out on some time because of the speeds that you're traveling at. But time travel to the past leads you into a lot of paradoxes. But I think the best way, because last week we had an astrophysicist on this same show, and whenever you look into the sky, you actually look into the past, because light itself takes a finite time to reach us.
To get to you. Yes. So when you're looking at the furthest galaxy is, what is it, 10,000 light years away, maybe a billion light years away. So we are looking at it. That galaxy does not exist at this point.
Right. So
100 billion light years ago, that light left that. So we are looking way into the past.
Yes. So I think we have to be satisfied with that for the moment. So
Let's get to Mars first, then we can do, then we can do time
Yes.
travel.
Now, generally, when you ask a child, what do you want to become? They say things, I want to become a doctor, I want to become an engineer, a scientist, a teacher. Some today even say, I want to become a farmer because agriculture is a major source of food for a lot of people. And people even say they want to become a politician. But very rarely do we ever hear someone say, I want to become a mathematician. So why do you think this is?
It's because mathematics has traditionally never, there are no jobs which says mathematician. And we do this. So one of the things that the Australian Mathematical Sciences Institute does is it puts out a whole bunch of for open days for year 9, 10, 11, 12 students. And they put out something called maths ads. The play on the word of ads, ADDS, but it's actually ads.
Ads, okay.
As an advertisement. So mathematics jobs. So mathematics traditionally has never had it written as, we want to apply you as a math, but there is a lot of jobs which are actually available to mathematicians. So mathematician is not a job that you can open a book and see. But if you are doing higher level physics, for example, then a mathematician is also available for
and
that.
a student, I think
So
very
there's a
relevant
huge
to this
number of
point here.
jobs.
A student called, a viewer called Rishma has asked, what are the career opportunities that one can look for in mathematics?
Everything. What do you want to do is what I usually say to that. What do you want to do? So there are. So I would suggest to Grishma, you have a look at the maths ads. It's on the AMC website. So that's the AU, and there are a huge number of jobs. The only thing to remember, it doesn't necessarily say mathematician. It could say statistics, it could say mathematics, it could say cybersecurity. So I'm a mathematician. And I could go and work as a cyber. Many of my students go and work as cybersecurity. There are jobs, as I said. It doesn't necessarily say mathematics or mathematician, but yeah, maybe we should have more of that.
Yes.
So if the U.S. Department of Labor is saying that the jobs for mathematicians is one of the fastest growing jobs, yes, there are now actually companies who specifically ask for mathematicians.
I think the COVID-19 pandemic has actually led us to understand the importance of mathematicians, and
right.
terms like flattening the curve have become common parlance. So
That's right.
it's actually
14-day
quite
average.
yes,
The
yes.
RF, the R naught. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
you were recognized as a superstar of STEM recently. So tell us something about this, what it means.
Okay, so the Science Technology Australia, which is a non-profit organization, is given money by the government of Australia to increase to have these role models. As you said, we need current role models. So they have had three sessions so far. So I'm not one. I'm one of 60 superstars of STEM for the 2019-2020 round. So it's for 2 years. So before that, there were 30 on the 2017-2018 round. There were 60 of us, and I think there's another 30 or 60, I'm not sure, for the 2021-2022 round. So the idea is to showcase the variety of things. So it's not just mathematics, it's STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So there are about 4 of us who are mathematicians in there, statisticians, mathematicians. So the idea is basically to showcase 2 girls specifically, and even 2 boys as well, that there are role models, that there is a whole bunch of things you can do if you are interested in science. Right. And mathematics is a whole bunch of things. So mathematics, you remember, is not the aim of what I say is not just to get you to be a mathematician. It's to get you to be a better at whatever you do. And that could be physics, chemistry, that's science, engineering, technology. It could also be medicine. It could be HAS, as we call it. That is, HAS is humanities, arts, and social sciences. You can't actually do social sciences high-level work without understanding statistics and mathematics. So it's sitting everywhere, and that is my aim, is to tell people, encourage them to do it so that they can do better whatever they do.
I think it's also quite relevant looking at how many digital transactions that we do these days. We have not just credit cards and debit cards, but we have our payment wallets. It could be Apple Pay, Google Pay, and all that. And how do mathematicians or cybersecurity experts, how do you look at the safety of all these transactional data and the safety of the financial institutions that control these transactions?
So how do we look? So cryptography, as I said, is the core of all of that. And you have to remember, so when earlier on you said, we have all of this data which is being captured by Google and Apple. Remember, data is their business model,
Right.
which means they have to protect
Yes.
that data. So we may not like the idea that they have got the data, but they are definitely protecting their data, because if they lose their data, and with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, and this is the same thing with banks. Mm-hmm. They are using the latest. So there is what is called the advanced encryption standard. That's what they're using. They are using elliptic curve cryptography. They're using public key cryptography. They're using quantum key exchange. They're doing a whole bunch of things too. But none of it, of course, is definite. So to keep ourselves secure, because what they say in information security and cybersecurity is humans are the weakest link.
Right.
We're the ones who will make a mistake. We're the ones who will do something. We will click on a link thinking that is a legitimate link. So humans are the weakest link. So one of the things we are doing in the Master of Cybersecurity at RMIT is to teach students what are often called the soft skills, but the non-technical skills, which are very, very important. The non-technical skills, and what we were talking about the other day is the essential skills. So which is why, as I talk about HAS, which is this humanities, arts, and socials, are so important. They're not two separate things.
No,
they are
talking
meshed
about humans.
This is how
talking about humans being the weak link. With the development of technology at a rapid pace, this is a viewer's question, in fact. And with the development of technology at a rapid pace, is there a possibility that mathematics one day can become completely automated?
I don't think so. So AI. Okay, so I'll give you an example with AI. Okay, and difference between humans and AI. So if you know someone, you can recognize them from the back of their head.
Right.
20 meters away. So you're walking, you see somebody very far, 20 meters is quite a bit, and you recognize that person, you know who it is, only seeing the back of the head. AI cannot do that. They cannot recognize the front of the head. So yes, so much of the automated tasks, like the bank tellers, taking drawing money, all of that is automated, can be automated, but there'll always be need for humans.
Touch is required. Yes.
So let me give you another example with fingerprint technology. Police use fingerprint technology. So it is possible to automate to a great extent. Ultimately, the call has to be made by a human. Right. So we're never going to be completely, we can go to Mars, but we will need a human to make sure we get to Mars.
Interestingly, fingerprint forensics was actually invented in India. That's a fact that I read recently. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh yes, cryptography is in the Kama Sutra. The cryptography is considered to be one of the 62 virtues. Yes.
Okay.
Wait, all of those years ago, yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know how that's relevant to cryptography.
No, it is because you have to remember, if you go back to Chandragupta Maurya, and if you remember that there is an episode there where he kills another king by sending a spy who is very beautiful. And so all of the spies were very beautiful women, and it was so important for them to know cryptography. So if you go back to Queen Elizabeth I, and look at the history. So there is one of the books I read early on when I started teaching cryptography, because I love to read the history, is what is called the Science of Secrecy by Simon. And I think there's also an earlier one by David Kahn. as well about secrecy, about the code breakers, which talks about how how you have the Enigma and everything in World War II. So it tracks it right from way before. So yeah, it's been there for a long time. Spying, cryptography.
Uh, so a student called Aditya Malya asks that I make a lot of silly mistakes while doing math. So how do I mend that habit, and how do I get over that?
Keep doing it. Keep doing. That's the only way. As you remember, I said right at the beginning that I keep doing the problems again and again. So it takes it. So to get to about 80%, to get it 80% right is often easier. To go from that, it's all of the 80-20 rule. To get the last 20% takes a huge amount of work. You have to find, so you can get to be a good cricketer. To get into the national team, that takes a lot more work. So you get to there to here, and then it's that much more. So perseverance, practice.
One common thought in today's competitive environment, especially in India, is that a student needs to get into premier institutions such as IITs or NITs to be successful. Uh, you started your academic career with a BSc from St. Agnes College in Bangalore,
Yeah.
and we're proud that you're from Bangalore. And today you're the Associate Dean at RMIT University in Melbourne. So, what factors led to your journey of success? Because this entire series is about journey of success, and we want to break the mindset that you have to start successful to be successful. So what are the factors that actually led to your journey of success?
Okay, so I keep going back to perseverance, don't I? But it's also important the things that I learned. So one of a few important lessons I learned in my journey was that I am, or we are, responsible for our own success, not somebody else. So you're going to go through. So I have been at RMIT now 29 years, right? So I had a lot of barriers. Okay. But if I looked at them as barriers, if she said, I'm not finding, I think I'm not good enough. Well, if I had thought that, I wouldn't be where I am. So I started as a casual tutor at RMIT. I'd finished my PhD in India and I came here. I started as a casual tutor. Today, I am sitting as the head of mathematics. So the whole thing is you can't. So some people look at it as being very ambitious. So I was not that. I was to start with, but then I realized I had to find pleasure in the work I do. Then the work I do is not work anymore. And that is what is the core of my success. Because I love what I do on a daily basis. Even the hard stuff, I love what I do. Sometimes it's very stressful. Sometimes I don't want to do it anymore, but I keep doing it because I know this is, I love the bigger job. I love doing research. I love talking to students.
Right.
I love, the whole thing.
Okay.
Yes, and that is what it is. Love what you do, and then you'll never work another day in your life because you will be loving every bit of it.
Keshav from Bangalore asks something that's very relevant here. Which was the hardest decision that you ever taken while achieving your goal?
To step back. So I went, so when I came here, there was nobody doing research in my area. So I had to find another area. And that was really hard. I learned a whole amount of things and I didn't know where I would use it. So this is so relevant when you said, I don't know when I'm going to use it. I learned a huge number of things and I just taught myself a huge number of things. And then I stepped back and I thought, so the message that has been in this one is that very specific, and I say this often from the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Karmanya Vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. And I've always kept that. Right is to the work, do your work, don't think of the fruits,
right.
Not the fruits of your labor. Yes, and that is what has got me to where I am. Yeah. And I still enjoy everything I do because I'm focusing on the work.
No, this is a beautiful lesson for all of us because it's very important that we always think about, where are we headed, and we look for the fruits before even sowing the seeds, right? So I
That's
think
right.
it's about sowing the seeds and nurturing the plant and finding enjoyment in doing that, and the fruits will
That's
come automatically.
will come. Yes,
Uh,
and it is. And it's
yes,
even in farming and gardening. That's the same. I plant first time I planted tomatoes, they didn't come up. The
yes,
plants didn't survive. The second time they did a great job, and I remember reading about it saying you should not plant tomatoes in the same pot that you planted tomatoes last year. I was like, oh, too late. They're already in there. So you don't know. You have to perceive. You have to keep. You don't know what works.
right.
It's only through trial and error that things work.
Uh, Talking about, you know, perseverance, some math problems are very difficult to solve. For example, we have Fermat's last theorem, which took about 365 years to solve. Uh, Goldbach's conjecture still stands unsolved today for over, I think, more than 250 years. Now, are there any practical reasons to actually solve these problems other than just having the pride that we have solved these?
The thing about pure mathematics is that you don't know. If Ramanujan and Hardy had, or even Newton, had looked at that as, Einstein's relativity, where are we using it yet?
Right.
Okay, so mathematics, the purer the mathematics, the longer it takes to get used. So we don't know. So we have, many of these problems have got, there are applications. The only problem is we don't know what they are.
True.
So we need mathematicians to work on mathematics for the sake of mathematics. And you say the Goldbach's conjecture or Fermat's last theorem, and there is also the Hadamard conjecture, which is in the area that I work in. It's been open for over. 1993 was 100 years, so we are looking at it's been open for 93. It's almost open for 130 years now. Almost 130 years. And, what you find is not that particular problem is the same. When I do my research, when I'm doing pure mathematics, I find I come down back to these problems. You're doing this, and then something is not working. And if something is not working, then you start looking at the literature and you realize the reason it's not working is there may be something like, the Riemann's hypothesis sitting behind. There may be Goldbach's conjecture, this Hadamard conjecture. There's stuff which is stopping. Not just there's a whole. It's almost like there is something which is stopping a whole bunch of things. So it's not that we are doing. There is most people do not have the luxury to sit and do Goldbach's conjecture, or to try any of these major problems. We don't do that. We just hit it. It's like there's the barrier. It's a sound barrier.
Yes.
You hit it. You don't realize till you hit it and you think, it doesn't work. All right, back up, go another way. Can I go around it? Of course, it's sort of around you.
Right,
all
and a
over.
viewer asks, based on what you've spoken, solving complex math problems drains the brain a lot. Because you actually need to put in a lot of mental effort. So how do we overcome that?
That is looking at it from the glass half full. No,
Okay.
glass half empty. The glass half full is, doing a really hard problem. You do constant this thing, but you can also apply it. So when I first started in Australia at RMIT, much of my research was very, very, very pure. But then I started applying. So I've done a lot of things which are applying, but then I go back to, because the hard problems, the complex problems, they don't drain me. They invigorate me. That's when you love mathematics. They don't drain you at all. I have a PhD student who's done a lot of things, and she's now working in, with medical research. Her this thing was mathematics. I want to go back. I want to go back and do the hard mathematics which is sitting in.
Right.
Because that gives you, these very hard problems. You spend hours and hours and days and days and days, and things don't work out. But it gets your brain working in a way that nothing else does.
So it's actually good to use your brain to its maximum extent.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, it would reduce Alzheimer's and, and dementia.
Yes.
Yeah, it will build new connections, new neurons firing.
A viewer, probably a student, asks a question. Ma'am, do you think invention of super AI could be the end of us? Or would it be the best thing that happens to humans?
I don't know. I don't know. So there is AI is here and it's increasing. We have started doing something which will go to its conclusion, because that's what human nature is. Well, if we don't wipe ourselves out by then,
right,
maybe it'll be a good thing.
I think whenever I see such questions, I feel that it won't be AI that wipes us out. It's probably going to be us humans that do it to us.
Yes, humans
yeah.
are the weakest link. As I say, it's not AI. AI is not going to do anything.
Right.
Don't read Dan Brown's Digital Fortress and decide.
Yes,
that's how it works.
A student asks, can a bachelor's degree in India, other than IITs or NITs, maybe not from one of these premier institutions, but if a student gets a bachelor's degree in India in cybersecurity, would it be reliable for the future career?
I don't know. Is there a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity?
Institutes do provide that.
Yeah, I feel that one of the foundational degrees is always a better one, something which gives you a broader, because as I said, no careers, nobody. And to be able to understand cybersecurity, you need to understand mathematics, you need to understand computer science, you need to have a basic foundational degree. So I've always said that cybersecurity is an add-on.
Right.
It's a postgraduate. Right. It needs you to use a huge number of different skills which you have to first build in the bachelor's degree.
Right. Another student asks, who is better, a software engineer or a cybersecurity expert?
A software engineer is not a cybersecurity expert.
Yes.
They're different careers. So if you're saying who is better, is asking is a tiger better than a lion? I don't know. Go ask the tiger and the lion.
Yes.
They probably have different things they do, and they do it differently.
They're better depending on what they're working on. So it just
that's right. So you need teams. So one of the things that we do in the Master of Cybersecurity, and the course that I teach, which is risk management, it all comes down, strangely enough. I actually teach no mathematics now. I teach risk information systems risk management. I teach students how I drag technical students kicking and screaming into working with business. And I got was about 3 weeks ago, when a student who had done this the course with me, the information system, we call it courses instead of subjects, so had done the subject with me, said, I never, Asha taught me this and I never thought what was the use of it, but this is what I did in my internship. She said, thank you. At last, it's taken a year, but now you understand. That is the thing, is whether you're a software engineer or you're a cybersecurity specialist, if you cannot talk to business, or you're an AI, if you cannot talk to business, then what is the point of what you're doing?
Right. There has to be some utility out of it.
Not necessarily utility as such. I would not say utility. What I would say is being able to communicate, to be able to work in a team, all of that, the essential, non-technical skills.
Great.
You have to be able to talk to your grandmother.
Yes. So, since we are almost at the end of our time, could you please give a few closing words on just to motivate our students about taking mathematics as a career, and if not mathematics as a career, the relevance of mathematics or mathematical thinking and how this is relevant?
Yes. So, if you go back to there is a movie, what is it, The Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is Steven Spielberg. It's one of Steven Spielberg's earliest movies. He talks about, mathematics is the universal language. I can read a paper in Russian without knowing a word of Russian if it's a paper on mathematics, because mathematics is the same. And that is what I say. It is a different sort of language, and you don't have to become a mathematician. Learning mathematics will give you a better view of whatever you are doing. It will get new neurons and logical thinking in your brain. So don't do it just because I need to do mathematics. Do it because it will improve you. You never know when you're going to use it. Because the problem is it will creep up on you and you'll think, I wish I knew more of this mathematics. I wish I had. And that is what about in August, I chaired a panel of four former, there were two former students who are working in industry and two current students. And all of them said, I wish I had paid more attention to my year 10, year 11 maths and my year 12 maths, because now I am using it. These are all the people. So two of them are working and two of them are in the degree. And these were people who found it hard. And their message to the year, and that is what I think that is the most important thing. Do it, persevere. It becomes easier. And when you start getting the right answer, that's when. So don't be afraid of making a mistake. When we start getting the right answer, you understand the enormous boost you get. And it will help all of your other subjects. Whether you become a mathematician or not is not important. Learn mathematics for the sake of learning mathematics. It will help you in your life, in your career. Now, maybe 10 years later.
Thank you so much. That was really valuable words from you, and we are extremely grateful that you agreed to be a guest for EduPath, and thank you very, very much for this. Just to summarize, I would like to tell our viewers, mathematics is it's the language of the universe, from the electrochemical signals in our brain to the equations of general relativity which govern the bodies in the universe, the galaxies. And it's one of humanity's most noble endeavors to understand the world and the universe that we live in, which would not be possible without mathematics. So I hope that all of you take the words that Professor Asha Rao has motivated us and inspired us with. And once again, thank you very much, Professor, for being here with us today. And for our viewers, thank you, ma'am. Our guest for the next episode is retired IPS officer Gopal B. Hosur, who was awarded the President's Police Medal for Gallantry for his role in fighting and bringing down the Forest Brigand Veerappan. So it's going to be a completely different concept, and we're going to listen to his story, what motivated him to fight and serve the nation, and get a lot of inspiration from that. So once again, before we wrap up, I would like to remind all of you to subscribe, to click on the notification bell, and keep participating with your full hearts, with all your messages and questions. Once again, I keep reminding you, please come back and support us in this endeavor that we are trying to do. So thank you all. We will meet again next week. We will be back to our usual time of 5 p.m. next week. So that is 8th, today's 8th, so 15th of November 2020 at 5 p.m. We will be back with IPS officer Gopal Hosur. Until then, thank you all and have a great day ahead. Thank you.